Jayo Sri Vrindavan, Sri Vrindavan, Sri Vrindavan, Jai Sri Vrindavan.
Gai Gaura Chanjive Thore, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare.
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 Lord Gaurachandra sings this Mahamantra for the deliverance of all living beings. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mataji, you would like to be here? Huh? Whatever pleases your heart. But it will please everyone's heart if you come here. Lord Gaurachandra sings this Maha Mantra for the deliverance of all living beings. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Fill yourself with divine love and chant loudly, just once, all these names of Krishna: Nanda Nandana, Yashoda Jivana, Shri Radha Raman. Dancing with your arms in the air, chant Shri Madhusudana, Gopi Pranadana, Murali Vadana, Agani Shudana, Putana Gatana, Brahma Vimohana. We'll try that once again. Fill yourself with divine love and chant loudly, just once, all these names of Krishna. Nanda Nandana. Bhakti Vinod is asking us to chant loudly. Nanda Nandana, Yashoda Jivana, Sri Radha Raman. Dancing with your arms in the air, chant Shimadusudana, Gopi Pranadhana, Murali Vadana, Agani Shudana, Putana Gatana, Brahma Vimohana. Gai Gorachand Jive Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare
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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Jai Gorachand Jive Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare
Gai Gorachand Jive Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare
Jai Gorachand Jive Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare
Gai Gorachand Jive Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare
Bolo Nandiran Nandan Yashoda Jivan Sri Radharaman Prema Bore Bolo Nandiran Nandan Yashoda Jivan Sri Radharaman Prema Bore Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Everybody Jai Gorachand Jive Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare
Gai Gorachand Jive Hare Hare Krishna
গাই গোরছন জীবে ধরে হরে কৃষ্ণ হরে হরে बोलो श्री मधुसूदन गोपी प्राणदान मुरली वदमृत्य खोरे बोलो श्री मधुसूदन गोपी प्राणदान मुरली वदमृत्य खोरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. गाय गोरक्षण जीवे थोरे हरे कृष्ण हरे हरे गाय गोरक्षण जीवे थोरे हरे कृष्ण हरे हरे louder बोलो आगनी शुदन मुक्तन कातना ब्रह्म विमोहन उद्वखरे बोलो आगनी शुदन पुथन कातना ब्रह्म विमोहन उद्वखरे बोलो आगामी शुतन भूतान कातना ब्रह्म विमोहन उद्वखरे बोलो आगामी शुतन भूतान कातना ब्रह्म विमोहन उद्वखरे Bhakti Vinod Thakur says loudly, Bolo Agani Sudan Putana Katana Rama Vimohan Urvakare Bolo Agani Sudan Putana Katana Rama Vimohan Urvakare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Louder please Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare louder Gai Gaura Chanjive Thore Hare Krishna Hare Hare Gai Gaura Chanjive Thore Hare Krishna Hare Hare Gai Gaura Chanjive Thore Hare Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Everybody Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Haribo, 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 Haribo. Gai Gorachand Jivetore Hari Krishna Hari Hari
Gai Gorachand Jivetore Hare Krishna Hare Hare
Gai Gorachand Jivetore Hari Krishna Hari Hari
Gai Gorachand Jivetore Hare Krishna Hare Hare
The last time we were in this area, quite late at night, we went to the place where Lord Brahma was bewildered, where he had taken the calves and gopas of Lord Krishna. Place of bewilderment. Today, by the causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada and our beloved Acharyas, we have come to the place where Lord Brahma, his pride crushed into powder, came to surrender his head at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna and offer prayers of love. It is a coughing kirtan. Somehow in Vrindavan even the coughing is quite melodious. It sounds like sweet Vedic ragas. Shall I briefly tell something about this narration? Hearing it in this place has very special purifying effects. It is one of the very special features of being in Holy Dham, is when we come to a particular place where the Leela is on the aprakata level, it is happening. Actually, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that even Krishna's prakata leela is eternal, nitya leela. How is that possible? Because of all the unlimited universes, somewhere in material existence, each of Krishna's pastimes is always being enacted. As soon as he finishes killing Putana in one universe, Putana comes into the house of Nanda Maharaj in another universe. As soon as Dhenukasura is whirled around by Balaram and thrown into the tal trees and loses his life in one universe, Dhenukasura is charging at Balaram in another universe. In this way, somewhere his pastimes are always manifesting. So to be in the place where the Lord has his leelas, and to absorb our consciousness in hearing that particular narration as it is revealed by the great authorities, has a very profound spiritual effect on our hearts. eagerness to hear is one of the most essential qualifications for spiritual progress. Srila Prabhupada explains that if you're not hungry, you can't really digest food properly. Similarly, if you're not very eager to hear, then the message that we hear doesn't really go and doesn't really digest within our consciousness. Srinvatam swakata Krishna punja sravana kirtana hridyantyatsto sabhadanani vidunoti suritsatam. Bhagavatam declares that if we're just eager to hear about Krishna, Krishna is so pleased because that eagerness is an expression of love. Krishna is so pleased with our eagerness to hear that from within the heart he eradicates darkness and removes the anarthas, the unwanted things. But how do we develop that eagerness to hear? We must, according to the teachings of Shukadeva Goswami, Shushushroshadadanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syanmahat Sevayavi Prapunja Tiratana Sevana. When we serve great souls, then Krishna is pleased with that service to his devotees. Then he gives us Vasudeva Katharuchi, the eagerness, the taste to hear the messages of Vasudeva. There are 9 processes of devotional service, beginning with Sravanam, hearing. Parikshit Maharaj taught us how to hear properly. He was going to die in 7 days, and he didn't spend the last 7 days making out his will to make sure everyone in the family was and nobody would steal away his properties. Immediately, as soon as he got this notice, he took it as a benediction of the Lord to renounce all material affairs, and he sat on the bank of the Ganges. He vowed not to eat, not to drink, simply to hear about Krishna from the great souls. He didn't even drink a drop of water. When it came to the 10th canto, he was already fasting for many days. But yeah, he tells Sukadeva Goswami that previously I didn't get water for a few hours, and I was so much disturbed that I went into Samik Rishi's house and he didn't give me water properly, so I put a snake on his neck. And then I was cursed to die. But now it's been days and days and days. I haven't had a morsel of food, a drop of water, but I'm not feeling the slightest bit disturbed because I am constantly drinking the ambrosial Ganges of the nectar of Krishna Katha. He was eager to hear. Not only eager to hear, desperate, helpless. It was life and death. He wasn't coming to Bhagavad Katha for some pious credits or for some entertainment or because he would be socially considered not a very good devotee if he didn't come, or because he has to, because it's the rule of the ashram. And he didn't fall asleep. He understood he was going to die in 7 days. Every word that was coming out of Sukadeva Goswami, he was intensely, helplessly, just taking it to the core of his heart. It was a matter of necessity. He was feeling starving for Harikatha. In other words, it was a matter of life and death for him. Prabhupada told us, Parikshit Maharaj knew he had 7 days to live. And there's not a single one of us who know for sure that we have 7 minutes to live. Correct? It happens all the time. We were just in Ramghat and all those little boys were putting snakes in our faces. There's cobras. They're just putting cobras right in your face, asking for some donation. Yes. I don't know how expert they are at whatever they do to the cobras. Do you really trust these little boys? It is a fact. At any moment, death can strike. And it happens to hundreds and thousands of people every day. Yudhisthira Maharaj told Yaksha, the most incredible, wonderful thing in the world is everyone's dying, but everyone thinks that I will not die for a long time. But actually, Hari Katha and Hari Kirtan in the association of Vaishnavas is the only shelter. And we need shelter desperately in this age of Kali. To forget Krishna is worse than death. Vishnu Purana describes like this. The worst tragedy in all the 14 worlds is not for your business to go bankrupt. It's not for your loved one to die. It's not to get some terminal disease. It's not to fail in your exams. It's not for your lover to leave you, as everyone's singing about. The worst disaster in all the 14 worlds, the Vishnu Purana explains, is to forget Krishna for one moment. Because Chanakya Pandit Prabhupada quotes, you cannot bring back that moment for even a second. Ayur harati vaikuncham. Bhagavatam says, with every rising and setting of the sun, we are one day closer to death. Except those who take pleasure in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. For them, with every rising and setting of the sun, they are one day closer to eternal life. So this is very serious. It's an emergency. Kamala dala chala jivana talamala. Govinda Das explains your life, your health, your family, your wealth, your everything in this world. What is the stability of it? Out of illusion we think there's stability. Out of illusion we're thinking that we have created some stability in our lives. But the reality is, it is like a drop of water on the leaf of a lotus. At any moment, it's gone. Vajahud Haripada. Therefore I want to fix my mind on Lord Hari. I want to worship Lord Hari. It's serious. It's important. Bhakti is much fun when it is practiced, especially with Dinabandhu Prabhu. It's very fun, very enjoyable. But if you really want to find the actual bliss, you have to understand the necessity and surrender, to understand the urgent need to desperately take shelter of Harikatha, to take shelter of the association of Vaishnavas, to take shelter of the will of the spiritual masters, and to take shelter of the holy name. So in this spirit, following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit, we could actually hear something of Srimad Bhagavatam. One day, Krishna decided he wanted to have breakfast in the forest with the Gopas. At this time, he was still in his Kumara Lila, which means he was around 5 years old. So Krishna rose early in the morning and he blew his buffalo horn and all of his friends assembled. This was the day of Lord Balaram's appearance. So Balaram was kept back by Rohini and Yashoda in order to perform nice sacrifices. Very opposite to the way people observe their birthdays today. Usually when it's your birthday, you expect people to give you gifts. Yes? But when Krishna and Balaram, when it was their birthday, according to the spiritual Vedic principles, they would spend the whole day giving gifts to Brahmins and exalted persons, giving gifts, and we give gifts knowing that if we please them, we get their blessings, and that's the ultimate gift. So Rohini Devi kept Balaram back that day because she wanted Balaram to serve the Brahmins and thus receive their blessings. But Krishna entered into the forest with his gopas and calves. There were hundreds and thousands of gopas and unlimited calves. In fact, the word in Srimad Bhagavatam is asankhya. That's how many calves there were. Asankhya means 1 followed by 17 zeros. Hare Krishna. That's quadrillions. Now you may wonder, how could so many calves be roaming around Vrindavan, which is just a small plot of land? But Krishna has Achintya Shakti, and his holy Dham is none different than him. Factually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that one small portion of Vrindavan Dham can accommodate billions of universes, each one 50 million miles in diameter. Hare Krishna. Now you may think this is very inconceivable, because it is inconceivable. This is Achintya Shakti. Unless we have faith in Krishna's Achintya Shakti, we can't really have faith in God. Haribol. That's Achintya Shakti. Nobody even teaches squirrels how to climb. They just know how to do it. Everyone has mystic powers. How is it that this is a neem tree? Yes? Imli town. One little seed from the neem tree is about this big. Yes? And within that little seed is a tree like this that creates so many thousands and thousands of seeds. How is that possible? Can anyone do that? We are seeing the incredible mystic potencies of God at every moment. He is Swarat. He's independent. He can do anything he likes. He can put 1 billion universes in a mustard seed. And there will be no traffic jams. No overpopulation. Yes? When he lived in Dwarka, one small island, but there were billions of people living on that island, and you don't read about congestion or high-rises. There was beautiful palaces and massive flower gardens. If we want to understand God, we must have faith in his Achintya Shakti, in his inconceivable potencies. So here is Krishna, just a 5-year-old little cowherd boy amongst his friends with an asankhya, 1 followed by 17 zeros of calves. And that's just a rough estimation. And they entered into the forest. Each one had their lunch bag and their bugles and their flutes and their sticks for herding the cows. And Krishna's beauty enthralled everyone's hearts. Complexion like tamal tree. His hair was decorated with beautiful florist flowers, and there was the peacock feather. He had gunja mala around his neck, and then a Bajayanti mala, wild forest flowers down below his knees. He had his pitambar, his beautiful golden dhoti. He had rings on his fingers, earrings of precious jewels in his ears. And he was smiling so sweetly, playing his flute. And as he was playing his flute, the older gopis, they were praising that the same lips that drink the milk from Mother Yashoda's breast are now playing this flute so sweetly. As they entered into the forest, each cowherd boy was beautifully decorated. The mothers decorated the cowherd boys with crystal ornaments and gunjamala, as well as pearls and gold. But they weren't so happy with those decorations. When they got into the forest, all the cowherd boys started decorating themselves with leaves and flowers and fruits and peacock feathers and natural minerals they were rubbing all over their bodies. One boy, then they played so many games. Actually, Krishna's Leela is the source of all play. All playing has its origin in the spiritual world in Krishna's Leela. The playing of this world is just perverted reflection. But Krishna descends into this world out of his causeless mercy just to teach us the real way of playing, where we can experience unlimited, eternal happiness. So the boys began to play. Apparently, just like ordinary children, one boy would snatch another boy's lunch bag. And that's very serious amongst the gopas. And the boy would run, give me my lunch bag, give me my... And the boy who had the lunch bag would throw it to another boy, and he'd run there and he'd throw it to another boy, and run there and throw it to another boy, and run there and throw it to another boy. Sometimes they put it in an area where there were all these thorns. And the boy was trying to get to it, and then when he just reached it, he threw it to another boy, and then threw it to another boy, and then it went so far away he didn't know where it was, and the boy would start to cry. And then all the boys would come together and give him his lunch bag back, and then they would dance and sing and have very, very nice fun. Then Krishna would go to a very beautiful scenic place and be looking around. And one boy would say, I will be the first to touch Krishna. And another boy would say, I will be the first to touch Krishna. Another said, no, I will be the first to touch Krishna. And all hundreds and thousands of boys were running to Krishna to touch him first. Haribo! And by Krishna's powers, every boy could think, I was the first to touch Krishna. The boys were differently engaged. Some were playing horns, buffalo horns. Some were playing flutes. And some were imitating the animals of Braj. First, they would hear the buzzing of the bees, and the boys would imitate the buzzing of the bees. Do we have a microphone for... This is very serious. We have to... Everyone, loudly. Louder. And then they would imitate the the very sweet singing sound of cuckoo. Everyone, please. Cuckoo, cuckoo. They would see birds flying overhead, and they would, with their arms stretched out, they would follow the shadow of the bird and pretend that they were birds. And they would imitate the graceful movements of the swans. And then they would imitate the quacking of the Vrindavan ducks. Everyone. Louder, please. And sometimes they would see ducks sitting silently, and they would sit next to the duck silently. That one I can do. And then they would see the peacocks dancing, and they would dance just like the peacocks. And they would imitate the beautiful song of the peacocks. Thank you. Sometimes they would see baby monkey on a tree with its tail hanging, and they would pull the tail of the baby monkey, and the baby monkey would jump away, and the boys would chase after, pretending to be baby monkey. And other times they'd see grown monkeys sitting on branch of trees with their tails hanging, and the cowherd boys would climb the tails of the monkeys and then sit next to them. And then the monkey would look at them with a monkey face, and the boys would give them a monkey face back. And then the monkey would make his noise, and all the cowherd boys would imitate the, I won't say in Vrindavan, the beautiful song of the monkeys. Everybody, very. This should be natural for you. Monkey. And then the monkey would jump to another branch, and to another branch, and to another branch, and the gopa would jump from branch to branch to branch to branch, just like monkey. Then they would imitate the sweet song of the frogs. And then the frogs would hear them imitating him, and they would become afraid, and they'd leap and leap, and the cowherd boys would leap right next to the frog, and the frog would leap, and the cowherd boy would leap, and the frog would leap, and the cowherd boy would leap, and then the frog would leap into the pond of water, and the cowherd boy would leap into the pond of water. And when they were near a pond of water, they would see their reflections, and they would laugh at their reflections and say joking words against the reflections.
Hey, Saleh!
And then they'd all surround, many of them would surround a well. And they'd shout into the well, and the echo would come back, and they would condemn the voice of the echo.
There's other words they use too.
Sometimes a boy would pretend he was the emperor, and many other boys were his subjects. And sometimes they would play games like constables and thieves, where the constables had to catch the thieves, and the thieves had to steal from the constables. And they would play with bale fruits and amalaki fruits like balls. Sometimes they would throw stones at the fruits and bring them down and play so many ball games with the fruits of Vrindavan. In this way, the Gopas would play with Krishna like ordinary children, whom the impersonalists worship as the source of the supreme Brahman, who the yogis worship as the Paramatma, who the devotees worship as the supreme personality of Godhead. The cowherd boys of Vrindavan played with him just as if he were an ordinary boy. It is described that by Shukadev Goswami that the cowherd boys had accumulated heaps and heaps and heaps of pious activities, krita punya, to have this opportunity. But the pious activities we're talking about are not activities in the material modes of goodness. They are talking krita punya of activities done in pure devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. Heaps and heaps and heaps of such activities offered in love for the pleasure of the Lord had given these boys the opportunity to play with Krishna. Such a great fortune. The jnanis, the karmas, the dasya bhaktas, they cannot play with Krishna. Even those who follow the eightfold system of yoga and attain the ultimate goal of samadhi cannot taste even a part of a particle, of a speck of dust of Vrindavan or the lotus feet of Krishna. So we can imagine the good fortune of the Brijbasis, who were every day living with Krishna as the most loving friend, child, or lover. On this particular day, Aga appeared. Now, the Gopas were so immersed in playing with Krishna, totally absorbed. And their playing with Krishna was so supremely enjoyable that it was impossible for them to stop playing. So therefore, every day, by Krishna's Leela Shakti, a particular demon would come to Vrindavan at lunchtime. Otherwise, they couldn't accept their mother's lunches. They would have just played forever. So on this particular day, the Yogamaya potency, specifically the Lord's Leela Shakti, influenced the heart of Aghasura to appear in Vrindavan just at lunchtime. When Aghasura saw these cowherd boys having so much fun with Krishna, he could not tolerate it. This is materialistic mentality. That we do not like to see other people having fun, especially when we are miserable. He was so envious, seeing the laughing and the joking and the playing and the bliss of the cowherd boys made him so angry. It was intolerable. How could they be enjoying like this? It must be stopped. And in this spirit, he assumed the form of a gigantic python, serpent. He was sent by Kamsa. Aghasura was the brother of Putana and Bakasura. And he laid on the pathway of Vrindavan. And he was thinking in his mind that I will avenge the death of my brother and sister. And I will offer as a last offering for their pleasures the sesame seeds and waters of Krishna and all the Brijabasis. Today they will die. This was intention. If I kill Krishna and I kill all the Gopas, then in separation all the other Brijabasis will die due to pain. Such an evil, malicious, envious intent. He laid on the road and opened his mouth. He was as thick as a mountain. His body was 8 miles long. Now some of us, we see little snakes, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 feet, yes? Are you afraid? It's like if you go into the fields because you have to respond to nature's call and all of a sudden, be honest, will you be a little afraid? It's little. Aghasura was 8 miles long. And he appeared right close to where we're sitting now. And he opened his mouth. His lower lip was on the ground. His upper lip was in the clouds. His eyes were blazing red like fire. His tongue was like a broad traffic highway. He had huge teeth that looked like the peaks of mountains. And a horrible wind was pouring out of his mouth every time he exhaled. So the Gopas saw this. And first, from a distance, they thought, this is a very scenic spot. Let us go and play. And as they came closer, some of the Gopas became very afraid, and they started running away. And other boys said, where are you going? Come back. It looks like a snake. No, come back. It's just, Krishna has provided this just something for we can play with. Then they walked closer. And as they walked closer, they were looking at it. Is it dead or is it alive? And then they came to the conclusion, this is certainly an animal who has come to swallow us. And then they walked closer and they were examining. Look at, his tongue is like a traffic way. His teeth are like mountain peaks. His mouth is like a huge, gigantic cave. And that hot air that is coming out of his mouth is the dead bodies that it has eaten. Hare Krishna. And then they all said, but Krishna will save us. Just like he killed Bakasura, he will save us. We have nothing to fear. Krishna was listening. And Krishna was very much concerned with the welfare of his children. It was his desire to stop them. When he was just about to stop them from going in, one of the boys cried out, "Let's find out what is within his mouth." And then all the cowherd boys looked at Krishna, smiling, laughing, clapping their hands. They all ran into the mouth of Aghasura, with their calves following. Now the demigods, who drink nectar, which is supposed to make you immortal, every day they were terrified with fear of Aghasura, because he was so cruel and so powerful. But the Gopas, they didn't have vajras and clubs. They didn't have powerful positions and armies like the demigods. But they had no fear. Why? Bajahure mana Srinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Bajahure mana Srinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Dulabhamanava janama satsange Taraha eva vo sindhare.
Dulabhamanava janama satsange Taraha eva vo sindhare.
Prabhupada gives an example that in the very, Hare Krishna, in the very strong current of the river, the elephant is the most powerful animal on the face of the earth. Yes, when it describes Bhima or Kamsa, it doesn't describe that they have the strength of 10,000 goats. It's always 10,000 elephants. Yes? Why? Because elephant is the strongest beast on earth. I've seen with my own eyes at Guruvayur. I was watching those elephants, and I just saw an elephant, just effortlessly. And this is just a small little elephant, just effortlessly, just wrap its trunk around a tree and pull it right out from its roots and throw it. Now, what human being can do that? Elephants are strong. But when the elephant goes into the rushing river, it's washed away to its death because the current is too powerful for it. But then we have the tiny little fish. Little fish this big. It's swimming upstream, it's swimming downstream, it's swimming across stream. With no fear. Why? Because although if you put an elephant and a little tiny fish in a wrestling arena together, who's going to win? The elephant will just go boom in a second. You'll never know the fish even existed. But because the fish has taken shelter of the river, the fish is completely free to swim anyway in that river. But because the elephant has not learned to take shelter, fear and death come before him when he goes against the current. Prabhupada's father gave him the name Abhaycharan, one who is fearless because he has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. This world is full of fear. At every moment, something can come upon us. But when we take shelter of Krishna, Bhakti Vinod prays, Krishna, if you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to protect me, you can protect me. I'm your servant. Deal with me in any way you please. When we have faith in Krishna, we become fearless. And these little gopas, who were nothing physically or mentally compared to the demigods, in the worldly sense, just laughed and and smiled and ran into the mouth of Aghasura. Now our acharyas explain, Krishna wanted to stop them, but he couldn't. Why is that? Because Krishna is controlled by the love of his devotee. Krishna is subordinate to the desire of his pure devotees. Krishna wanted to stop them, and the Gopas wanted to be saved by him, and the Gopas won. So after they were in the mouth of Aghasura, Aghasura kept his mouth waiting. He was waiting for Govinda. And Krishna was thinking, how am I going to kill this demon without harming my friends? And he thought for a moment, and then he entered into the mouth of Aghasura. And then Aghasura closed the mouth. And the demigods were in terrible fear. They started crying out very loudly, "Alas! Alas! Alas! And Kamsa had his spies everywhere. When Kamsa heard that Krishna has been swallowed by the all-powerful Aghasura, they were rejoicing, they were having festivals, they were crying out words of jubilation. And meanwhile, Krishna, he's listening. And Krishna did not like to hear the demons so jubilant. So Krishna began to grow and grow and grow until he occupied the entire space within the massive demon Aghasura's mouth. And Aghasura, to counteract the effect, he began to grow, and Krishna grew, and he grew, and Krishna grew, and he grew, and Krishna grew to such an enormous size that he completely blocked all possibility for any air to circulate in Aghasura's mouth, and Aghasura was just bursting, its eyes were rolling, and then he suffocated, and his spirit soul just burst from the top of his head into the sky. Aghasura was dead. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki! Now why did Krishna do that? He never did that before in his Leelas. Because Krishna never wanted to disturb the sweetness of his relationships with his devotees. Just like Vamanadev, when he had to take 3 steps, he enlarged himself to such a massive degree that 2 steps covered the universe. But when Krishna had to kill Sakatasura, he didn't do anything like that. He just remained a tiny little baby, 3 months old, and just with his little small lotus-like foot, which was tender as a newly formed tamal leaf, he just kicked. And the ghostly Asura, Sakata, was dead. Yes. And because he remained just as a little helpless baby, it didn't disturb the Vatsalya feelings of love of his parents or any of the cowherd men or women. Similarly with Putana. When Hiranyakashipu was terrorizing the universe and offending Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Narasimhadev came out of the pillar in a gigantic, massive form. And he had his nails that were harder than thunderbolts, and he ripped Hiranyakashipu apart. Now, Putana was every bit as powerful as Hiranyakashipu. Yes? Even though she was a lady. But Krishna didn't expand in size. She expanded to 12 miles high. But he just remained a little baby, just a couple days old. And he just sucked and sucked with his little tiny How big are the fingers of a child that is 3 years old? Did you ever look at the face? Sometimes I see the fingers, little babies. They're so small and so soft. You're just afraid they're going to break at any second. Yes? And Krishna had little tiny butt fingers. He just squeezed. Leave me, child! Leave me! Leave me! She was in mortal pain. But Krishna did not change his size, because if he did, he would have disturbed the sweet feelings of affection of the Brijabasis. Because Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Rasaraj. So why did he grow like this and reveal such opulences? The reason is because when Aghasura closed his mouth, all the gopas and all the calves became unconscious. Some commentators say that they all died. Why? Because it was so dark they couldn't see Krishna, they couldn't maintain their lives, and there was no air either. So they were all laying unconscious, and the mouth was closed so nobody else could see. So in this way, there was no one to disturb the ras with. The gopas were unconscious, everyone else was outside, they didn't know what was going on inside. So Krishna killed the demon as he would ordinarily kill demons. Just... And when Aghasura died, his mouth opened. And Krishna glanced with a gaze of love upon all of his friends and calves, and they came back to life. They were astonished. They were all looking around and smiling at one another. They were in this massive serpent's belly. Then they came out. And when Krishna came out with the gopas, the light of Aghasura's spirit soul, which was floating in the sky in a form of light, merged into the body of Krishna. And our acharyas explain, as far as in fact, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that he had attained Sarupya Mukti, which means he didn't just get liberation like most demons. He was elevated to Vaikuntha, to have a four-arm form, similar to the Lord's himself, and be in eternal loving service to the Lord. He attained the perfection of life. Now, several important things are to be understood in this way. One is, generally you don't see the soul in the form of light. But Krishna made that soul effulgent because he wanted everyone to know what type of liberation Aghasura was giving, out of compassion. Also, Krishna Yeyatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna reciprocates according to how you approach him. So Aghasura let Krishna in his body. So Krishna let Aghasura in his body. This is reciprocation. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki. But more important, even though Aghasura was such a cruel, violent demon, when the cowherd boys were in his belly, they enjoyed it like a playground. Agyata Sukriti. He actually gave fun to the cowherd boys. For them it was ecstatic. It was ecstatic, running into his mouth and playing in his belly. Because he gave pleasure to the cowherd boys. Their association changed his heart. And he actually felt pleasure in the cowherd boys' association. Why? Because he gave pleasure to them. That was the reciprocation of the Lord, that he could actually appreciate the association of great souls because he did some service for them, even unknowingly. And therefore, when Krishna entered into his mouth and into his mind, for the last moment of his life, Aghasura was feeling some ecstasy. He was favorable to Krishna. Therefore, when he gave up his life in that state, he was qualified for elevation to Vaikuntha, eternal loving service of the Lord. And the Bhagavatam describes, just see, Aghasura, because he had Krishna in his body and in his mind, even though he was such a demon, he attained Swarupya Mukti, spiritual perfection. What to speak of those who in a favorable way are always remembering Krishna by hearing his glories and chanting his holy name. When Aghasura was dead, the demigods were so relieved. They were showering flowers upon Krishna. And the Apsaras and the Gandharvas were singing and dancing, and conch shells were blowing, and kettle drums were playing. And Brahma came to see what type of festival was taking place. Now, Parikshit Maharaj was very curious. He asked Shukadev Goswami, why is it that Krishna killed Aghasura when he was his Kumar Lila, and 1 year later, when he was in his Poganda Lila, the cowherd boys told the Brijavasis this story as if it happened the same day? I don't understand. Can you explain this to me? Now we will begin today's lecture. That was introductory. But first, Aghasura represents the mentality of cruelty to others, causing trouble to others due to envy. Sometimes, even as devotees, we have this asuric tendency represented by Agha, that we actually, whether we like it or don't like it, we cause trouble to others. We want to see other people suffer. We don't want to see other people succeed. Now, what does Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teach of Vaishnavas? Srila Prabhupada quotes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the previous acharyas that what a Vaishnav means is that our happiness is to see others' happiness and our distress is to see others' distress. Para dukkha dukhi.